Lee Richardson is on to talk with me, and we've had Lee on before. First of all, Lee, welcome to the program. Hi.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're going to talk about football here. Now, Lee is a licensed professional counselor, so she's on here for other reasons, too, because you all know me pretty well, and I need some help. In fact, Lee, I went to your Brain Performance Center website. Lee is down in Dallas, Texas, and I've gone through, and I see anxiety and autism and brain-body connection and cognitive behavior therapy and depression and insomnia. So after, I may need to call you after we're off the air just to have you walk me through some stuff. I need all the help I could get. No, according to the Boston Globe, I came across this, and I found it kind of interesting. There's actually a bill pending in the legislature in the state of Massachusetts that is not saying it's a bad idea for young people to play football. It would ban any child, if they're 7th grade or under, from playing or practicing any form of organized tackle football. Lee, I would imagine this is going to be met with great applause and incredible jeers, wouldn't you?
I would, because we're really starting to understand the severity of head concussions. And once you have one, your brain is so vulnerable. And so if you start taking those hits in the head when you're 6, by the time you're a teenager, that brain has really been bounced around a lot. I find it interesting, though, that 5 other states tried to pass this same bill, and it was not passed. I don't know if it's the same bill, but a similar bill, and it was not passed.
Wow, so 5 states said, yeah, we want to take this step, too. So they can't get it passed. Why? Is it the moms and dads? Is it the coaches in the states? Who is it that's kicking up? Who is it that you would think would kick up the most resistance to this kind of bill?
Well, I think it's 2 things. Remember, I'm down here in Texas, and football is king.
Oh, listen, you've got high school football stadiums down there that match some of the NFL stadiums. They're unbelievable.
Absolutely, and we'll have them right across the street from each other. So, I think a big part of it is football is part of the culture, and it's hard to change culture. But I think the second thing, and more importantly, it's lack of education. People really do not understand, because what this law, this bill is based on is the health and the safety. That brain, by the time you're 6 years old, your brain is 90 to 95% the adult size. But from age 9 to 15, so much is changing in that brain. It's developing. A lot's going on in the back of the head. Your brain is kind of like pruning. It's getting rid of connections that it's not using, and it's strengthening other connections. So it really is a critical time for brain development. And I think that people don't understand that. And once that education occurs, they'll see the validity of a bill like this.
Well, down there in Texas, do you have people getting a hold of you? Do you have parents calling you? Do you have coaches calling you? Concerned people in school systems? Are they calling places like the Brain Performance Center and saying, can I come in and have a session with you and sit down? I need to know, just how serious is this? Are the people trying to find out if it really is something they need to be careful about?
Well, they're not calling me. I'm not going to say that they're, I don't really have a read on that. I do think that we do impact testing down here in Texas, not all schools, but some. And what that does is that gets a baseline for where you are. And then if you have a concussion, if you take a big hit to the head, you have to take that impact testing again, and you have to show that you're, where you were before you can go back into play. So I do think that that's something that is being implemented, and it's probably going on nationwide. But it is a step in the right direction.
We're talking to Lee Richardson. She's with the Brain Performance Center down in Dallas. And when we're done, this interview will be up on our website. And then, Lee, we're also going to connect them to your website so they can find out more about you and the work that you do. Is part of the problem, too, and I realize that you're not coaching a ball team or anything, but is it possible, because I do think I see this sometimes, that somebody gets hurt, call it concussion, call it whatever, and we seem to be better about the concussion protocols now, but when they happen, they don't give themselves ample time to make sure they're fully recovered because there's a big sectional game coming up, or it's time for the drive for the state championship or whatever. We really need Billy next Friday. I mean, is there this push to get back in the game and maybe they don't give themselves the proper recuperating time?
Absolutely. I think, that's a big part of it. And the kids want to get back in the game just as bad as the coaches want them. It's hard to walk away from that. But I think that it's a bigger picture. And really, I think with what we've learned from the NFL, we have, society as a whole has responsibility to recognize that, look at one of the greatest football players, Tom Brady.
Yeah.
He didn't play football at that age. He didn't start until later, until I think he was a junior in high school. So it doesn't mean that you can't be a great athlete or a great NFL player if you don't play young.
I know that there's such a tendency to say, well, my son's got to start early because if he's not already finding out exactly what he can do by the time he gets to middle school, he won't get the attention of the coaches in high school, and then he's not going to get any college scholarships. So maybe what they're doing in Massachusetts, if you're going to adopt the theory that, brain injuries in football, they are a problem, especially for the young. If you're going to start a theory that says, okay, until 8th or 9th grade, nobody's playing in our state, well, if everybody is following that protocol, then maybe we take away some of that pressure to make sure the kid is playing when he's 6 and 7 years old.
Well, and I think you're right. I mean, look at what they do with soccer and lacrosse and hockey. They all have standards in place, and football doesn't. So it's not that we're just now realizing that there's a need. We've known that there's a need. It's just that it's a cultural thing, and there's a great amount of teamwork. I mean, football, I think, is the biggest sport there is.
Yeah.
Played and celebrated, and it's a cultural thing, and it's something that as a little kid you grow up and you want to do it, you want to be part of it. But with what we've learned from our NFL players over the last 10 years, and even there's a lot of research that supports it. Boston University, their School of Medicine, put out a big study last April, and it really showed support for delaying before the tackling starts.
Well, I know last year the President of the United States, when he was asked, came out and he said that he really wouldn't want his son Barron to play. And I think Barron at the time was 11 years old. That he wouldn't want him to play tackle football. He thought the risk of brain injury was too risky. So let me just ask you, Lee, I don't know anything about your family or anything. I don't know if you have children or not, but if you had a son who was a freshman in high school, as a 9th grader, would you feel comfortable allowing your son to get into tackle football?
Well, I had 2 boys, and they both did the Pop Warner. Football was really neither one of their things. One played football in 10th grade.
Okay.
And he played the year, and then he had kind of was done with it. So, never was a really big decision point in my life.
Okay.
But knowing what I know now about the brain, I would have thought twice.
Yeah.
But I would have thought twice about that Pop Warner.
And isn't it really important, and this is getting more into your counseling side, and then I've got to run, I've gone long, Lee, but isn't it really worth it rather than parents just saying, no way, brain troubles, you're not playing, that's it. To actually sit down and have conversations with them and to maybe find some doctors or counselors in our area that do what you do and sit down with them just so the child understands what the risks really are and why you're coming to the decision you're coming to?
Absolutely. And even, there's so much great information online. Google brain development, and sit down and have a talk with your kid and explain that what's going on in that brain from the time you're like 6 until 12 and what a crucial time that is for brain development. And I think that, they want to have the best brain they can. We all do.
Yeah.
So I think just sitting down and talk, you make a great point. Sit down, talk about it, put it on the table.
Well, I appreciate you being on with us today, Lee. And I meant what I said. If there's anything more dangerous than football, it might be being a conservative talk show host. So because of all my anxiety and my depression and everything, I may have to come down and see you. So I'll set an appointment.
There you go. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you, Lee Richardson, who is there in Dallas, Texas, at her corporation. Good stuff to know. She says it might be a good thing what's happening in Massachusetts, where they're going to ban it for people that are 7th grade and under. Nobody in Massachusetts will be playing tackle football 7th grade and younger. Good, bad, and different. If you want to call in real quick,